Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is NurFitriah Fajriatul Masula. I'm from TBI1 and my ID number is T2019-6038. Today, I would like to share my understanding about the contribution of Roman Jacobson, NIDA, Newmark, and Kohler to the translation theories. And the first researcher is Roman Jacobson. Roman Jacobson is regarded as one of the earliest theorists who carried the study of equivalence in meaning. Roman Jacobson's study of equivalence added new ideas in translation theories since he introduced the concept of equivalence in difference. Jacobson suggests three kinds of translation. The first one is intralingual translation. It is dealing with one language, and the second one is interlingual translation. It is dealing with two languages, and the third one or the last one is intersemiotic translation. It is dealing with sign systems. Okay, and the second researcher is NIDA. NIDA suggests two different types of equivalence. The first one is formal equivalence and the second one is dynamic equivalence. Okay, I will explain the first one, formal equivalence. Formal equivalence focuses on the message itself in both form and content. It requires there should be a close similarity between the ST and the TT message. Meanwhile, the dynamic equivalence is based on the principle of equivalent effect, in which the relationship between receptor and message should be substantially the same as that which exists between the original receptor and the message. Okay, besides that, NIDA also mentions the notion of naturalness. He claims that the main aim of equivalent effect is to achieve the closest natural equivalent to the source language. And actually, the concept of naturalness is the core element in NIDA's equivalence theory, which relies on the adaptation of grammar, cultural references, and lexicon of the ST. And comparing form and content of text, NIDA mentions that content should come first in translation. And according to NIDA, the dynamic translator is more faithful than the literal one, since they may consider more fully and satisfactorily the meaning of the original text. Okay, the third researcher is Newmark. Newmark makes a distinction between communicative and semantic translation, which is similar to NIDA's dynamic equivalence. Communicative translation tends to create the same effect on the TT reader as that obtained by ST reader, resembles NIDA's dynamic equivalence. Semantic translation focuses on the rendition of the conceptual meaning of the ST according to the syntactic and semantic characteristics of the TT, which is similar to NIDA's formal equivalence. And another figure of translation theories is Kohler. Kohler proposes 5 types of equivalence. There are denotative, connotative, pragmatic, textual, formal, and aesthetic equivalence. Kohler mainly studies the examination of the relation between equivalence and correspondence. Equivalence refers to the equivalent items in both the ST and the TT based on length, while correspondence can be related to contrasting analysis as a field of comparative linguistics based on parallel. And besides that, in the book, In Other Words, Becker examines the problem of equivalence at different levels in translation process. Becker combines the approaches of linguistic and the communicative by adopting a bottom-up method, and begins with simple words and phrases and continues with grammatical, textual, and pragmatic equivalences. And she distinguishes the equivalence theory into the 4 points. Equivalence can appear at word level and above word level. The first one is when translation from one language into another, grammatical equivalence. The second one is when referring to the diversity of grammars across languages, textual equivalence. The third one is when referring to the equivalence between a ST and a TT in terms of information and cohesion, pragmatic equivalence. And the fourth one, or the last one, is when referring to implicatures and strategies of avoidance during the translation process. And also, according to NIDA, there are 3 basic factors deciding the types of translations. The first factor is the nature of the message, which means the messages differ in the degree to which content or form is the dominant consideration. And there is 2 factors are the purpose of the author and by proxy of the translator and the type of audience. And then the author is also suggests studying the impact on translators' choices under the equivalence theory and equivalent effect from the 3 aspects. The first one is scopus or purpose, and the example like the intention of the translations target readers' expectation. The second one is cognition and knowledge, for example like the knowledge of translators and readers. And the third one is about cultural differences. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.